Have you ever had someone take the words right out of your mouth? There are a million sayings about it, and they all describe the exact same shared experience. Being on the same wavelength as someone, syncing up, or vibing. Maybe that's just the best friend who always gets you better than everyone else. Or the family member who always knows exactly what you need to hear. Or even a crush that makes you say, "I've never felt like this before with anyone." It shows up in other ways too. You ever get a phone call from someone you haven't talked to in a while, but were just thinking about? Sometimes it goes even deeper, with twins and couples that swear they can feel each other, even from far away. These interesting coincidences, or synchronicities, don't usually get much more attention than just a laugh or a smile. But what if the way you and your best friend just clicked was way more than just shared experiences and interests? What if being tuned in to someone's frequency was actually something more? And if there is something deeper happening, why do these connections feel like they transcend distance and even time? Join me as we unravel some of these questions and more, and enter the Codex Legendarium. I'm Shelby Melanson. Before we can be on the same wavelength as someone else, first, we need to understand how waves themselves actually work, and exactly how powerful they are. We may not think about this too often, but every single piece of information that we get, just by nature of being alive, comes from waves. The sound we hear, the light we see, the feelings we experience. But that's just the beginning. The law of vibration says that everything, matter, energy, information, all of it, vibrates at a certain level. That's including our thoughts, which show up as pulses of electricity. This is where our brain waves come in, but more on this later. If every single aspect of what we experience moves through waves, I mean, seriously, how powerful is that? If something is in everything, can't it affect everything, especially our minds? Think about sound. Some music or white noise relaxes us, or even helps us sleep. Maybe a good workout playlist gets your blood pumping and boosts your mood. On the other hand, sitting in traffic, listening to car horns and police sirens, or say, someone yelling outside your window at 2 a.m., those are grating, anxiety-inducing, and they make us mad. It's the same story with light. Some colors make us hungry, others angry, and still others help us calm down. Most of that has to do with how waves are formed. Their frequency, their wavelength, amplitude, and speed. How often each wave happens, how big they are, and how fast they move. As if influencing our bodies and minds wasn't already enough, here are a few more cases of just how powerful frequencies and waves really are. Special sound waves can actually pick up and hold objects in mid-air. That's right, we're talking about levitation. Acoustic levitation, but still, it's real. And while scientists usually do this with specialized rigs, some researchers have even said that Tibetan monks can do it. Back in 1939, a Swedish doctor was invited to witness a special kind of ceremony in Tibet after treating a Tibetan lama. Here's the gist of a report about what he saw. Inside a cave, 13 drums and 6 trumpets were positioned in a special kind of alignment. At first, nothing happened when the monks started playing. But as the speed of the music increased and the monks started chanting, quote, "The big stone block started to rock and sway, and suddenly it took off into the air." Okay, all right, I can already hear you in the back. There's no way that a bunch of guys playing musical instruments could be powerful or precise enough to do this with chance. On the other hand, there are tons of studies that have scientifically measured and proven that spiritual practitioners can do all kinds of stuff through meditation that most people can't. From simple changes like raising or lowering their body temperature or their heart rate, to big stuff like fundamentally changing the structure of their brains. From there, some of them can also generate extremely powerful energy and brain waves, way beyond what most people have access to. And this is nothing new. Ancient traditions going back as far as 5,000 years have understood the power of vibrations and waves. Egyptians, Greeks, Babylonians, the ancient Vedics, and what we now know as India, and even Native Americans, all of them have written about vibrational energy and how it influences cosmic alignment and even has healing properties. Traditional Chinese medicine took that a step further, believing that music therapy was so effective that they built it into language. The Chinese character for medicine is the same character as music, just with a small addition to represent medicinal herbs. So, okay, music equals medicine. But what happens when it doesn't? Sometimes it can cause harm, too. One Chinese story describes how the Yellow Emperor used drums made from the skin of a monster to defeat the evil ruler of another tribe. Scientists today have confirmed the same thing. In the 1980s, biochemist Dr. Glenn Rains discovered that some music types can resonate with our DNA and even heal it, while others cause harm. There's no debating it, waves are powerful, and they have intense effects on our bodies and our minds. So what does that look like inside the human brain? And what does it have to do with how we connect to people? Our brains work by sending and receiving different electrical signals. It happens when our brain cells, or our neurons, fire off electrical signals in patterns. Those patterns become rhythms and they form brain waves. Different types of them do different things. For example, our brain waves vibrate differently when we're asleep versus when we're actively concentrating on something. In general, our brains vibrate at a low frequency, anywhere from 1 to 100 Hertz. Keep this number in mind, we'll come back to it later. Interestingly, if you record and play them as sound, you'd actually hear a low rumble. But here's where we get to the good stuff. How does all of that tie in to how you and your best friend connect? We might call it clicking with someone, or being on the same wavelength. But neuroscience actually has a name for this. It's called brain coupling, or neural synchrony. This is how it happens. Imagine hooking two people up to an fMRI machine, a brain scanner, right? Well, they have a deep conversation. When both people are deeply connecting and relating to one another, their brainwaves actually sync up, and they're on the same channel, like for real. This is exactly what Princeton University neuroscientist Yuri Hassan tested in his experiments. And it gets even crazier. Brain functions look super different when someone is telling a story versus listening to one. But as it turns out, the MRI scans during that synced up conversation looked nearly identical, regardless of who was talking and who was listening. Biologist Victor Mueller also found that activities like making music together, playing chess, and even kissing make our brains sync up too. And many more studies back this up. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Other research suggests that our brains are designed to do this. And when we do it, we get all kinds of social benefits. We learn better, we solve problems better, we cooperate better, and we actually perform tasks better too. And we don't even need the MRI scans to see this. Have you ever walked next to someone and noticed that after a little while, you started subconsciously walking in step without even realizing it? For the lovers out there, this actually happens with our heartbeats too. The best part? Researchers from UCLA and Dartmouth found that our friends share similar brain wavelengths. That's right, the people you get along best with are actually on your frequency, literally. And the better you get along with them, the more similar your brain waves actually are. The studies can't say for sure whether being friends makes our brains sync or if it's the other way around. Personally, I say it's a bit of both. Something else to keep in mind here, our brains are constantly adapting and making new connections through a process called neuroplasticity. So the longer and more closely synced people are, they probably become more and more attuned over time. Longtime performers, married couples, and best friends probably know what I'm talking about here. That's all super cool, but learning about this left me with one big question. Let me back up and explain. You ever call someone that you haven't talked to in a while, and when they pick up, they say, "I was just thinking about you." They're called synchronicities. And some people think they're just happy coincidences, but others believe they're a prime example of how we're actually connected to other people and parts of the universe, regardless of space and even time. It makes sense that our brains link up when we talk to each other. But then, how do we explain that, for some of us, those connections don't actually feel limited by time and space? Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt close to someone who's far away physically? Is that just a strong emotional bond? Or is it something more? And back to brainwaves, can two people be linked if they're, say, in different rooms? How about different buildings? Or what about different sides of the planet? And if the answer to that is yes, what's the cutoff point? Let's take a closer look at some of those connections. If you've ever been in a long-distance relationship, you know that they're tough, and that being far away from your person is hard. But studies say long-distance couples are actually just as emotionally close as in-person couples. And their connections might even be stronger. A 2013 study called Absence Makes the Communication Grow Fonder, it's a super cute name, right? Found two things. One, that partners in long-distance relationships were more likely to willingly share deep personal thoughts and feelings than their in-person counterparts. And two, long-distance partners were more likely to focus on their partner's good qualities and less on their imperfections. Now, you can say that's just better communication skills and maybe stronger trust. But the idea actually goes way deeper. Some people know it as lovers' telepathy, or even twin telepathy. Science calls it simulpathity. Basically, it's the theory that people who are closely bonded can empathetically resonate with someone in a different place. Most studies focus on romantic couples, twins, mothers and children, family members, and close friends. But more often, this shows up as being emotionally in sync with someone. Here's what that can look like. Feeling a rush of intense and otherwise unexplained joy, sadness, or stress, and finding out that your partner was feeling the exact same thing at the same time, even when they're super far away. Likewise, shared dreams, experiences, or knowing when your partner is thinking of you. Like we talked about earlier, have you ever called a close friend only to have them answer and say, "I was just thinking of you"? Even the ancient Romans wrote about it. The world's oldest encyclopedia, Pliny's Natural History, is actually where we get the expression, "Your ears must have been ringing." One study placed identical twins in different rooms. One of them was asked to close their eyes. Like what we talked about earlier, closing the eyes makes the brain generate alpha waves. The twin in the other room also generated alpha waves at the exact same time, but with their eyes open. Interesting. Some of these connections are so strong that they go beyond emotional feelings and actually become physical ones. They're called telesomatic events, and they describe when one person has a physical sensation, usually pain, when something similar happens to someone they're bonded to. There are a ton of cases of this, and you probably have experienced one. Here are just a few of them. For example, a mother who suddenly dropped her pen when her hand started burning, only to get a phone call later on saying that her daughter's hand had been severely burned in a chemical lab accident. And a different mother began clutching her chest in pain, saying she knew something was wrong with her daughter. Not long after, police arrived to tell her that her daughter had in fact been in a car accident, and even that the steering wheel had impaled her chest. Even more cases describe situations when someone feels pain, has a wild dream, or somehow emotionally knows when someone they love has died. Plenty of scientists and doctors brush these off, thanks to the career stigma that looking into them seems to carry. But a poll back in the 90s by the National Academy of Science said that 10% actually believed cases like this were worth serious scientific investigation. Here's the thing, there are too many of these cases to count. If you don't believe me, take a quick look at social media for posts about twin telepathy or telepathy in love, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Or maybe you've experienced it yourself. 2 studies have found that roughly 60% of twins have experienced it at least one time. But virtually every study makes the exact same conclusion. Science doesn't actually know what causes this. Is that actually true though? Or is it just that theories are being rejected? We live in a time where more and more ideas that were once tossed into the science fiction category are getting re-examined and actually proven true in the mainstream. We'll talk more about this in a separate episode, but have you seen recent headlines that even quantum teleportation has been proven possible and that scientists have actually done it? If that's not enough science for you, astronaut Edgar Mitchell did something really cool. When he wasn't busy becoming the 6th man to walk on the moon during the Apollo 14 mission, that is. He quietly ran an experiment to test the true power of the mind and its ability to connect with another person, non-locally, from space. He wanted to answer one main question. If human brains can send and receive information long distance, exactly where is the cutoff point? Or is there one? Here's how his experiment worked, with a little help from his friends back on Earth. Like a lot of telepathy tests, Mitchell used cards with symbols on them called Zener cards. He linked those symbols to numbers on a randomized table. And then he would focus on one random symbol for 15 seconds at a specific time of day. Back on Earth, his friends tried to receive that message. Considering what we talked about earlier, it's probably safe to assume that working on this kind of project together likely caused some brain syncing between Mitchell and his friends. What they discovered was even more mind-blowing than they expected. Not only were they able to receive the message, but they found out that the time of day the message was sent didn't actually matter, meaning brain-to-brain signals can be sent from as far away as Earth to space, and that the signals weren't confined to time. To no one's surprise, NASA did not approve of this experiment, and they brushed off Mitchell's findings. In an interview later on, he said that he never intended for this to even go public, and it was intended as a very personal and private experiment between him and his friends, because they were interested. Unfortunately, the media also got wind of it, and they totally wrote off his discovery. Funny enough, he also said lots of people at NASA privately asked about his experiment behind closed doors. In the end, he said this: "Scientists said it doesn't exist, but the reality is it does exist, and it is natural." According to Mitchell's space experiment, physical distance and time don't block brain-to-brain connection. But why? Like we talked about earlier, human brain waves vibrate at a relatively low frequency. And low frequency waves have a special trait. They can move through obstacles that might block other kinds of waves. Think being able to feel vibration of super low bass music from far away, or how you can hear the low rumbles of the noise from your neighbor upstairs loud and clear. Combine that with the theory from biologist and author Rupert Sheldrake. It's all about morphic fields. The simple version is this. Just like energy in gravitational fields, morphic fields are the memory of the atom, object, or system that they surround. And just like other energy fields, they surround everything. It all starts making sense when you apply that theory to people, or more importantly, groups of people. If these memory fields connect specific people together, regardless of where they are in time and space, do these pathways allow us to communicate no matter how far apart we are? And could this explain why people who are on the same wavelength stay mentally in sync no matter what? Sheldrake says yes. We were designed to resonate with our environment and the people in it. And no matter how far away we are, we're still linked. It's a nice thought, isn't it? No matter where our friends and connections are in the world, right next to us, on the other side of the globe, or even headed for the moon, that distance might not be as far as it seems. Personally, I say it's best said by an old Buddhist metaphor. We are all separate waves, but still part of the ocean. And that is something worth resonating with. But what do you think? Are brainwaves, thoughts, and emotions really strong enough to overcome distance, time, and space? Have you experienced synchronicity? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into mysteries, myths, culture, and science. There's a lot more coming. Thank you.